All right, then. It is Thursday again. You know, these Thursdays keep coming and they don't stop. It's like there's one Thursday right after another. It's confusing to me, but then again, I'm not a time physicist person. Hey, welcome to Pete Monfrey Tells the Truth. Every Thursday at 11 o'clock here on LinkedIn, we talk about B2B marketing with a focus on companies that sell services to other businesses. The goal here is to help you make better decisions about your marketing, help you avoid getting taken to the cleaners. We don't want to be taken to the cleaners by this industry that is basically the Wild West, or as I like to call it, dumpster fire. It's a wild industry. We want you to be prepared. So we hope you'll tune in and learn a couple things and teach me a couple things too by commenting. And maybe you disagree with me. That's okay. Let's get into an argument right here live on LinkedIn. I do have the ability to bring you on if you're interested in being on the program. I'll just let me know in the comments if I think that's a good idea. I will send you a Zoom link and we'll just get you right on the program without any preparation, just the way that I like it. My name's Pete Monfrey, as you can probably tell, and here's where I tell the truth. So today I want to talk about this book. I get people ask me a lot about the books that they should read. You know, what is your preferred reading list? And honestly, there are hundreds of books, but there are a few that stand out that I think also bear the test of time. And the one that I'm going to talk about today a little bit is called The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by a couple guys, Al Ries and Jack Trout. You might have heard of them. They have a bunch of books that, you know, the answer to the question, which book should I read? If it says Al Ries and Jack Trout, read those books. There's a whole bunch of them. But today we're going to talk about the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And this is a great book. In fact, this was published, I think, in... let me look real quick. I forgot all of a sudden. I think 1994, 1993, something like that. So it's a pretty, 1993 actually. It's a pretty old book. My copy, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but the pages are yellow. Look at that. And so I've had this book for a long time. And I've picked a couple of chapters, but I'll just give you a sense of some of the chapters. The law of leadership, the law of the category, the law of the mind, law of perception, law of focus, exclusivity, goes on like this. I'm not going to read them all. There's 22 of them, actually, which hence the name, right? And so I picked a couple of these that I thought were particularly good. And, you know, there's some pretty hard truths in this book. And so that's why I thought it would be good to take a look at it. So the first one I want to talk about, the law of perception. All right, so the law of perception. Marketing is not a battle of products, it's a battle of perception. Okay, so that doesn't say that the product doesn't count. You know, in this day and age where people have infinite choices, you need to have a good product, you need to have a good service. You got to make sure it is the best that you can make it. But at the end of the day, really all you have out in the marketplace is how people perceive that. And marketing is all about shaping perception, right? And so this idea that the best product will win is not necessarily the case. And I think we've all seen that. I think that let me just read part of the book here. Marketing people are preoccupied with doing research and getting the facts. They analyze the situation to make sure that truth is on their side. Then they sail confidently into the marketing arena, secure in the knowledge that they have the best product and ultimately that the best product will win. It's an illusion. There is no objective reality. There are no facts. There are no best products. All that exists in the world of marketing are perceptions in the minds of the customer or prospect. The perception is the reality, and everything else is an illusion. I think that's fascinating. It almost seems obvious, but I think it's really easy if you're caught up in the product development phase. And by the way, when I say products, I don't mean just physical products. Services, products, you know, things that people buy, things that other businesses buy, whether it's software, whether it's a digital product, or whether it's a pure service like here at Clarity Marketing Support, we are a service company, and we help other service companies build their business by improving their marketing. So that's interesting because we do a lot of research, but I think he's really specifically talking about product research. And so just because you've built a better mousetrap doesn't mean that people are going to instantly understand that that's a better mousetrap. So I highlighted a couple of things. Most marketing mistakes stem from the assumption that you're fighting a product battle rooted in reality. All the laws in this book are derived from the exact opposite point of view. And what some marketing people see as a natural law of marketing are based on a flawed premise that the product is the hero of the marketing program, and you'll win or lose based on the merit of the product. So that's interesting. So what does it mean in practice? I think what it really means, my interpretation of that is to really get inside the mind of your customer. And that means ask them. There's so often we operate in a mode where we're trying to guess what's on the customer's mind. We're trying to guess as accurately as we can. We're basing it on our experience. Maybe we've been in the business for many years, and so we think that we know what our customers think. But here's the thing. If the last time you talked to your customers in an organized research kind of way, not in a casual, hey, how's it going, John? That kind of way, you're understanding, what if it's 10 years old? What if it's 5 years old? The market is moving fast. All right. Things are changing all of the time. So if you haven't surveyed your customers in the last 2 years, you're probably working on out-of-date information. So if you want to understand how they're thinking, what their perception is, just ask them. And the cool thing about asking them is they want to help you. It's just, I think a lot of business people are afraid to ask the questions, and they should be, actually, because they shouldn't be asking the questions themselves. They really need an objective third party, and here's why. And hopefully that party, that third party knows how to do research so that they're writing questions that don't lead the recipient into an answer. So very neutral. There's definitely some scientific rigor that goes with it. So let's just assume that they know that. But the main reason is your customers will tell an objective third party things that they won't tell you. And if you do it right, you'll make it anonymous. In other words, that objective third party would tell each person that they're talking to. I like phone interviews, by the way. Digital surveys are okay depending on what type of business you have. But if you have a service business selling to B2B, it's conversations. And I like to tell them that, look, your identity is not going to be shared with the client. It's just your information is going to be mixed up with all the other information, so you can really say whatever you want. And that is so important because even though it is scary, those scary things are exactly the things that we want to hear. Now, the side effects of a customer survey, and a lot of this, and the reason I'm talking about it with the perception concept, is a lot of it has to do with perception and how they perceive you and how they perceive the market and how they buy and what the criteria is. And you can get a pretty good handle on that. But another side effect is you'll probably make some more sales. You might spot some problems that are going on that you didn't know about. And of course, the general idea is you're going to learn more about how they buy, and you're going to be able to better address those issues, be more relevant. Okay, marketing strives to be as relevant as we possibly can. And if you're making decisions based on your perception of the customer's perception, pretty good chance you've got it out of date, or you don't have the subtlety that you need to be successful. So the chapter 9, the law of the opposite. If you're shooting for second place, your strategy is determined by the leader. Oh, I love that. Okay, are you in control of your strategy? Who's in control? Are you in control? Is the market in control? If you give you an example, I meet a lot of companies that have built pretty good business based on the phone ringing, right? Or maybe they've based their businesses is all about their network. And some of those companies, if they're not very mature, they haven't found out yet. I mean, it's going to happen, but they haven't found out yet that they're going to run their network. You're going to run out. You're going to run out of network contacts. You're going to have to go expand beyond that. Your phone's going to stop ringing at some point. Okay, and so in that case, what they're doing is sort of a passive type of marketing, and they're not in control, right? They're letting the market control what happens with their business, and that to me is scary. And so the book, it says, in strength there is weakness. Wherever the leader is strong, there's an opportunity for a would-be number two to turn the tables. Much like a wrestler uses his opponent's strength against him, a company should leverage the leader's strength into a weakness. And I think that's interesting. It talks about Coca-Cola being a 100-year-old product. Only 7 people in the history of the world have known the Coke formula, which is kept locked in a safe in Atlanta. Coca-Cola is the old established product. However, using the law of the opposite, Pepsi-Cola reversed the essence of Coca-Cola to become the choice of the new generation, the Pepsi generation. Do you see how they used Coca-Cola's strength against them, in essence? And so this is interesting. Now, there's another, in some other part of this book, and I don't remember where it is, but it talks about the validity of being number two, right? Being number two in a large category is a pretty good spot. And Avis is famous for realizing that they were never going to beat Hertz on their own terms, and they had this brilliant idea to basically own that number two position in the category and say, hey, we're number two, we try harder. So that in that case, they turned one of their weaknesses into their strength. VW did this in the 70s, where it said the VW will, I think it said something like, they'll continue to be ugly forever. So they were leveraging what sounds like a negative. But I think the lesson here is you can't really work the law of the opposites unless you know your competition. And so many of us, we don't really pay a whole lot of attention to the competition. I meet people all the time that they insist that they don't have any competitors. If you think you don't have any competitors, today I have a new thing on the program called the Bell of Bullshit. All right, so here's the Bell of Bullshit. If you tell me that you don't have any competitors, yes you do. By the way, this is a Hector Salamanca brand bell, and so you can get those at the Breaking Bad store. But you absolutely have competitors, okay? They might not do precisely exactly what you do. Hey, I think my mom's calling me. Doesn't she know? Let's find out. Oh, hey, it's Scam Likely. This Scam Likely guy sure gets around, I mean, that guy's calling everybody. Need to take him out of my address book. Where was I? What was I talking about? The competition. We don't think about, we think that we know the competition. We think we know the industry. Sometimes we think, who cares about the competition? Okay? One of the competitors that you might not have thought of is the competition of doing nothing, all right? A competitor doesn't necessarily have to have the exact same thing that you offer. It just has to be able to, it's an alternative for your customer to solve whatever their problem is. So if you look at it that way, it doesn't matter what you sell. Customers have a lot of alternatives to solve their problem. And so it's so crucial to know what those competitors are saying, how they are trying to shape perception. We do a competitive analysis where we take your company and we take 4 of your top competitors and we put them together in a Wild West shootout where we measure all 5 companies, including yours, on the same 20 factors. We call it Conquer. And basically what it does is it creates a map of their strengths and weaknesses and your strengths and weaknesses, puts them side by side. It's actually color-coded. It's pretty slick. And so you can see where you're strong, they're weak, and vice versa. And the whole idea is to figure out who is a real threat But the more important thing is, where are the weaknesses that you can exploit? And again, if you haven't been out actively looking at what your competitors are doing, you probably have a fairly outdated idea of what's happening in the market. And that's also just because the market it's not your fault. It's just how fast the market is changing. And so it's something to consider for sure. And if you want to know more about Conquer, let me know. We actually do this in 5 days. It's $49.95. 5 days, $5,000. You're going to know where your competitors are weak and where you're strong, and vice versa, and how to exploit those weaknesses. Also, it tells you which competitors you can ignore. All right, and if you're interested in that, I can share more about it. I think it's pretty cool. But then again, it could be biased. No, we've done it hundreds of times, and it always reveals just unbelievable information. So you want to know, if you can't be the opposite if you don't know what the opposite of the opposite is, right? It's all relative. And I just had another stray thought, because that's how it works here on Tell the Truth. When's the last time you visited your own website? Think about that for a minute. When was the last time you went and looked at your own website? All right? Do that. Not now. Wait till after the program. But again, we do this I say we because I have a mouse in my pocket. Actually, no, my creative director and producer is sitting next to me, making sure that this thing works properly. And so that's what I mean by we. Heidi's sitting right next to me. And we do this every Thursday at 11 o'clock Central, and we try to hit on the most important topics to help B2B companies, executives, leadership make better marketing decisions and not get taken by the nasty marketing industry. The law of candor, number 15, law of candor. Listerine, the taste you hate twice a day. I wish they still use that. That's actually awesome. The taste you hate twice a day. And so think about this. So it goes against corporate and human nature to admit a problem. For years, the power of positive thinking has been drummed into us. Think positive has been the subject of endless books and articles. So it may come to surprise to you that one of the most effective ways to get into a prospect's mind is to first admit a negative and then twist it into a positive. So I like this law, the law of candor, because that's actually what Tell the Truth is really all about. Avis number 2 in rent-a-cars, with a name like Smuckers, it has to be good, right? Because in that case, the name, Smuckers, I can only imagine when Mr. Smucker insisted that we're going to name the company Smucker, and then the rest of the board was like, what? That's a terrible name for jelly. Joy, the most expensive perfume in the world. Now, where is Joy today as a perfume? I don't know. I've never even heard of that. So what's going on here? Oh, the 1970 VW will stay ugly longer. So, again, taking a strength. The VW is a great case study of this. There's a famous ad by, I think it was Ogilvy, and they had the VW. It was a full-page ad, all white, and it had the VW real small in the middle and nothing else. There may have been a headline, I can't remember, but it was just this small little picture, and essentially the common wisdom of the time, everybody was making these massive big cars, right? These big heavy cars. And so VW comes along. Actually, I think it's Hitler's car. And it had some real weaknesses, I think, in terms of the perception of the product. And Ogilvy really took that and created it into a positive. And I think it really led to an explosion of the small, what I would call pony cars, right? The smaller cars. So first and foremost, the book says, candor is very disarming. Every negative statement you make about yourself is instantly accepted as truth. Positive statements, on the other hand, are looked at as dubious at best, especially in an advertisement. And that's because people know ads are coming from you, right? So if you make a lot of claims in an ad about how great you are, people's cynicism kicks in. They know that that message is coming from you. And so, like, for example, the VW will stay ugly longer. A car that ugly must be reliable, thinks the prospect. With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good. Most companies, especially family companies, would never make fun of their own name, yet Smucker family did, which is one reason why Smucker's is the #1 brand of jams and jellies. At least it was in the early 90s. It's probably still true, I would think. And so mentions Avis. So why go for the obvious? Marketing is often a search for the obvious. Since you can't change a mind once it's made up, your marketing efforts have to be devoted to using ideas and concepts already installed in the brain. Remember what I talked about last? Surveying your customers? Okay, you need to know what's going on in their brain. And because you can't physically get in there, unless you're a brain surgeon, then survey them. Get a good understanding of what's going on in their minds, which is where marketing happens. You know, we do that here on the program. We talk about our industry and the places where it's just not optimum. The industry's changed a lot since I've been involved in it, which is 30 years now. And so I was just talking to another agency owner that's been in the business as long as I have. And it's really a unique perspective, seeing the industry go from, you know, for example, personal computers, 1990 is when we started, to today. It's an absolute sea change, and that change is accelerating. And so, you know, there's a lot of negatives in the marketing industry. And so what we hope to do here on this program is help educate you and show you the pitfalls, and also give you some good things to think about, recommend some books. And the more educated you are, the easier it is to avoid getting taken to the cleaners, okay? And it's real easy to get taken to the cleaners in this business. I'm trying to think of a negative that I could share with the people about myself. One, I'm not wearing any pants, okay? So that's not true. I am, but my hair is thin. Yeah, I don't know if any of these have to do with marketing, but I'll think of something by the end of the show. This last law, number 22, this one is, man, this is a harsh truth, okay? And I think that I'll get a lot of pushback on this idea, all right? And I'm going to talk about this a little bit longer, and hopefully some of the friends that we've tagged will join us and make a comment. It's okay if you don't. We're going to keep yapping. We're going to yap, and we're going to do it every week at 11 o'clock Central right here on LinkedIn. If you're seeing this in the feed and you're not sure where to find it in the future, just hit my profile and go to recent activity posts, and you can see this. You can also go check out more of these on my blog at claritymarketingsupport.com/blog. Lots of good information there if you're interested in honing your skills and your knowledge of marketing. Whether you're doing it yourself or you're looking for an agency, we're going to help you make a better choice. Even if it's not us, by the way. Sometimes we're not the best choice. There's a truth for you. Sometimes we're not the best choice, all right? And so we want you to make the right choice, not just choose us, right? This number 22, the law of resources. Brace yourself, people. Without adequate funding, an idea won't get off the ground. Say that again. Without adequate funding, an idea won't get off the ground. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean throw money at it. I think some people perceive that as, well, spend more. No, that's not it. We're talking about, say you're a really small company, and you don't have any resources, okay? And it's not just money, by the way. It's money, it's time, it's focus, it's attention, right? All the different kinds of resources that go into taking something to market. If you don't have resources, it's not going to work. And the tragedy of this is I see it a lot, and it's sad. People are working their hearts out, and they just can't seem to make any progress. All right, and so even if they muster up enough to, let's say, hire us to do a marketing plan, once that plan is in place, if they don't have any resources to execute, they're not going to be successful. Now, why does this matter? All right, here's some truth. Here's some truth coming at you about the marketing industry. There are, I would say, way too many agencies that will not tell you this. And let's say you have some small amount of resources, and the agency's not going to tell you that, look, that's not going to work. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to take your money. All right, they're going to make promises. They're going to take your money. They're going to try to take it for as long as they can, and then they're going to churn and burn you. Okay, that is a lot of what happens. So let's say that you want to drive results in 30 days, and you have $500 a month to do it. All right, not going to happen. All right, but you're going to find an endless stream of people that are going to take your money. And here's why: they're more interested in the sale than they are in actually solving your problem. Okay, and so you might be thinking, well, what do? I don't have the resources. I don't know, right? Get a loan, bring on investors, sell that Mercedes. I meet a lot of people who have a lot of personal assets, and they don't want to put a dime of their own money into their company. Now, I understand there's a kind of a rule where it's like, use other people's money, right? But look, if I'm an investor, if you don't believe enough in your company to invest your own resources into it, why should I? Right? So I see this all the time. Somebody says, look, we just don't have any budget. We're not sure what to do. And, they're living in a $2 million house. Okay. Now that could mean that they're in debt, right? I'm not making any judgments here. You never know what somebody's situation is. But the hard truth is, if you don't have resources, you're not going to be able to take it to market. So I'll just read a little passage here. Even the best idea in the world won't go very far without money to get it off the ground. Inventors, entrepreneurs, and assorted idea generators seem to think that all their good idea needs is professional marketing help. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Marketing is a game fought in the mind of the prospect. You need money to get into the mind, and you need money to stay in the mind once you get there. Okay, so you're going to get further with a mediocre idea and $1 million than with a great idea alone. And so it's hard, people. I mean, I think people don't want to talk about it. Agencies don't want to talk about it because it can be a little disheartening. But it is like, some of these laws in here, they're almost laws of physics, of business physics. Some entrepreneurs see advertising as the solution to the problem of getting into the prospects' minds. Advertising is expensive. It costs $9,000 a minute to fight World War II. It costs $22,000 a minute to fight the Vietnam War. A 1-minute commercial on the NFL Super Bowl will cost you, now this is 1993 money, right? $1.5 million. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak had a great idea, but it was Mike Markkula's $91,000 that put Apple Computer on the map. Now, for his money, he got a third of Apple. And the authors and I agree, should have held out for half. So ideas without money are worthless. And then it says, well, not quite, but you have to use your idea to find the money, not the marketing help. Okay, the marketing can come later. And so the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, just a great book. And it actually ends with a warning that most organizations are so invested in these wrong-headed ideas that if you start bringing these to the organization, you're going to get some pretty big pushback because some of them are not intuitive, and it's not what the marketing industry has been selling for many, many years. And so It is a real challenge. But the 22 laws, Immutable Laws of Marketing by Reese and Trout, I really recommend that you pick up that book from your local bookseller if possible. Now, they might not have it. I think actually the book has a different cover now. This one is out of print, but it's the same book. It just has a different cover. You can find it on Amazon if your local bookseller doesn't have it. If you leave the house, does anyone leave their house anymore? I'm not sure if they do. I think we're all just hunkered down in front of Zoom. So there was, usually I try to stick to one topic, but there's something that's been coming up repeatedly lately, and it's a question that I get fairly often, and I had someone shoot me an email and ask me about this, and what happened was I had a fairly I'd say, a fairly large company, and they hired an agency, and the agency fired them. And this client was, understandably upset, and so was wondering, was it something they did, or was it the agency? And I don't have all the information, but I did ask him a few questions about it. And it was very interesting to me because this happens a lot. Either the client fires the agency fires the client, nobody's happy, a lot of money gets spent, nothing happens. It's terrible. It happens all the time in this industry, but why? All right, now I did a study, took about 2 years, and we looked at almost 100 different marketing programs to figure out what the dynamic was, what the difference between failure and success was. And as this person was describing kind of what happened, there were two big things that leaped out at me, okay? I asked, was there a discernible process? Now, let me back up for a minute. When I say agency, in this case, it was a web development firm, and they were really buying a tactic. They were buying a website. And so my first question was, did that web development firm, was there any strategy involved? Did they do a deep discovery? Did they review, was there any strategy? Was there a discernible process? No. Did they ask you for your strategy, and do you have one? And they said yes, so that was good. But then I asked, or let me try to remember the conversation. He mentioned that they had a few meetings. I think had two meetings. I think about an hour each, to get a sense of kind of what the client wanted, and that's a problem. I'm going to come back to that. But then they went off into their, what I assume is a dark hole, probably not, probably a beautiful, expensive office with lots of lighting, but I think of it as a dark hole. And the client didn't hear from them for a little while, and then they came back with the finished solution, and they unveiled it, and they said, here it is. And the client says, that's not what I want. That's not what I wanted. All right, can you change this? Can you change that? Can you change this? Excuse me. I just burped on the podcast. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? My producer says I hear notification chimes. I don't know why that is. Let me just check something real quick. We don't want you to hear that. My notifications are turned off, so who knows? It's just the mystery of technology. I just heard another one. I hope you're enjoying those chimes. I can make some too. I can just ring the bell. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Actually, I turn my sound on. We'll see if we can hear any chimes. But always derailing myself. Isn't that great? So there's a couple things going on. The process was missing. Like, what should happen is an iterative process where you understand the requirements. And then you work, you say, hey, look, here's a rough draft. Back in the old days, it was literally a sketch. Okay, is this kind of close? Client says, yeah, it's close, but nah, what about this, that, and the other thing? Okay, great. And then we take that and we refine it to the next stage. We bring it back in front of the client for their sign off, right? And they say, oh, that's way closer, but this and that. Okay, oh, great. And we go back, and it's an iterative process until that is done. And usually it's a limited number of rounds of revisions, we call it, and they should be included. I mean, you should always get at least 2 rounds of revisions included in any price, okay, so that you have input early and often, okay? What this does, eliminates mistakes, okay? Or not mistakes, it eliminates hopefully mistakes also, but it eliminates surprises. All right. You don't want surprises from your agency. You want solutions. But here's the other part of that. Control, right? Too many agencies these days are really order takers, okay? And so how to best illustrate this. When you go to a doctor, that doctor has a process, a diagnostic process. I mean, you might come in and you've been out on WebMD and you're like, oh my God, I have cancer, and of course the doctor, he'll politely listen to you usually, but he doesn't care what you think. He's going to start at the beginning and he's going to ask you questions. Okay, he's going to take control of that interaction because he's the expert. And strangely, we let the doctor take control because we know that they're the expert. We may have done a lot of research, but we see that doctor as an expert and we give them the control of the process, okay? And so, but we don't do that with our agencies or our marketing consultants. There's a battle for control, okay? And so too many agencies let the client control the process. And, I'm guilty of it too. I've done it too. And it usually doesn't work out well. All right. In fact, I can't remember who it was. Just yesterday, somebody was talking about their disappointment that they hired a consultant and the consultant was so rigid that they would not deviate from their process. And this client didn't like that. Okay. Well, I hate to say it, but that consultant was exactly right. All right. If somebody is the expert, it's the difference between the doctor and placing an order at Burger King. Okay, if you've got an agency consultant and they're just doing whatever you ask them, it's just unlikely to turn out well. So I think in the case of the client that was fired, the agency was trying to have control, but they took it so far that they didn't really let the client in on the process. So the happy medium is a collaborative relationship, right? Where there should be no surprises. There should be a clear process that the agency can, or the consultant can demonstrate for you, okay? If they can't demonstrate their process for solving the problem, that's a huge red flag, okay? And I would probably move away from them and find someone who can demonstrate a process. And that process should be iterative. Iterative, is that, I hope I'm saying that right? And also collaborative. And I like to collaborate with as many people on the client side as possible. In fact, a lot of times what I'll do in my discovery process with a client is start with the sales team, which kind of blows their mind sometimes, because sales, I think they're always thinking to themselves, nobody ever wants to talk to us. Nobody cares what we think. I care what you think, all right, because you're the closest to the customer out of everybody. So I'm going to start with you without your supervisor there so you can speak your mind, and then we'll bring the executive team in. Now, I'll tell the executive team to invite whoever they think they want to invite. Sometimes the maintenance man has a brilliant idea that nobody else thought about. You just never know. So the more inclusive your process is, the more buy-in you're going to get, the better ideas you're going to get. Now, it still needs to be driven from the top, and I don't mean that it should be the decisions are handed down from the top. I mean that the top, the CEO, the president, is the driver of the process, but including everybody in a collaborative, clear process that's iterative is going to get you where you need to go with the minimum number of nasty surprises. And in this case, this guy hired an agency, did not get what he wanted, spent a bunch of money, and is right back at ground zero. And so really unfortunate, but I would say in the study that we did, it's really a 50-50 split of responsibility for failure between the agency and the client. The client didn't know enough about what they were buying, which is kind of hard to blame them. That's why they hire an expert. But the experts weren't necessarily experts, or they didn't have a solid process, and it just was a lose-lose for everyone. So if you're thinking about getting help, give me a call. shoot me a message. Doesn't mean that you're gonna be my next client, but I am going to help you. I'm going to help you make a good decision, whether it's us or someone else. So it's 11:40, and Myrna King says, Pete, love Pete's marketing insight and the collaborative process he uses to deliver first-class results for clients. Burp. Yes, thank you, Myrna. I try to get all the burps out before we go live, and it's quite a scene here in the office when that's going on, and people go running for the doors, and it's maybe embarrassing, but I don't get embarrassed easily. So thank you for that, Myrna. We love you, and check out Myrna King if you get a chance. Boy, she is one of the most insightful people that I know, and you can find her on LinkedIn and other avenues. And I'm just checking. I am paying attention, but we are just checking to make sure that if you did comment, we want to make sure that we're responsive. If you were tagged in this video, then consider yourself very special. You're very special, and we love you, all right? And we hope you got something from the video. So you're listening to the B2B Marketing Podcast every Thursday at 11 o'clock Central right here on LinkedIn, called Pete Montfrey Tells the Truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. You might not like it, all right? But I'm going to tell you anyway. And this is how I work. A lot of the things that I tell my clients are preceded with the sentence, well, you're probably going to fire me after I tell you this, and then I just go ahead and tell them, right? Because the truth is always the right thing, as my dad said. If you're ever in doubt of what to do, always tell the truth. And join me here next Thursday, and we're going to tell the truth again. In fact, I don't know, do we have a guest next Thursday? Do we have a guest next Thursday? Don't know yet? All right, we are booking. If you'd like to be a guest on the program, also shoot me a message, and let's talk. We love to hear. You don't have to be a marketing person to be on the program, by the way. We want to hear from everybody. And what do you think? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Do you have other points of view? We want to hear it. Anyway, this has been Tell the Truth. We'll see you next Thursday.
Don't you